it's really cool to see.
Yeah, and I think Ryan, he's still always looking for new artists. You know, he's always like he's not as well. I don't want to say he's not on social as much as me because I see him constantly bringing in new artists. He's got to find them some way. You know, I think just I don't want to say chasing trends, but you know, you got to do what sells.
You got to stay relevant too,
right.
You know. And as you guys know, like with clothing industry, it's such a hard business that you see companies like stay on that, like die on that hill because they stay in one thing and they don't venture out a little bit and take risks.
Absolutely,
and I think that's important.
I compare. I don't like using the word fashion because we're not like a fashion brand, you know. But I guess clothing, whatever terminology you use, but I compare it to music a lot because just like music. You got to reinvent yourself.
Totally.
You can't keep living on that one hit wonder. You know.
Yeah.
And when we first started, a lot of it was, you know, a lot of the Black and Gray, Day of the Dead stuff. You know, a lot of the guys were pumping out, and it killed it. But
it did.
If we put a shirt out like that now, they'll be like, "Oh, this looks like it's from 2005."
Totally. That's a trip. Yeah, I didn't even think about that because that stuff has kind of like trickled down a little bit. It was always like Rose's Day of the Dead stuff was popular for a while. Yeah, and I've noticed like now even just like that. I was looking at what brought it up was that skull on the can.
Yeah.
You know, more of that kind of like 80s like style skulls and stuff is coming back, which is really neat. You know, it's just a different style of artwork and more like I guess animated looking too, some of the stuff.
For sure. Yeah, and I mean, I think Ryan would be able to answer this question better than me, but I think we're still probably about 70% of the artists is from tattoo artists, but you know the other 30 or 40 is freelance. So you know we got a lot of guys that just pumping out art, you know, and I know Ryan has some of his favorite go-tos that are just good at pumping out art, and you know a lot of it has more line work or more.
Totally, it's just that's t-shirt like friendly too. Yeah, you guys need that because I remember the first time I did one with you guys, I was like. You know, he was like coaching me on how to do it. Like, don't paint all the way to the edges, and because I'm such a tattoo artist, like in the box, and like some of these artists, you know, they leave it for interpretation, and it works better as a shirt that way.
Hey, I'll tell you what though, I was looking in my closet trying to find my Jeremiah Barba shirt to wear.
Oh, you were?
It was too faded. I couldn't bring it, so that means you got to do another one, man. You're old. It's outdated.
Ryan hit me up to do one last year during like the beginning of COVID, you know, and like I'm like, oh hell yeah, I got time to do it, and for some reason. Just that first couple of months ago, I like cranked it for a little while, but then I got so caught up in the like everything going on in the outside world that I kind of just stopped like working on it. So I have this painting on my easel still in my garage for you guys. That's like 2 hours away from being finished.
I was gonna say, what percentage is it done?
It's like, dude, it's like 90, you know. And I'm like, every day I walk out there, I'm like, I gotta finish that painting. Even yesterday, I was like. Should I paint today? And then I start doing other shit, and I'm like, no, I'll get it. You know, it's just one of those things. But
for that reason, Ryan has to have his freelance guys too.
Well, it's great because you guys have this pool of people that like, you know, it's pretty unlimited. You know, like because even if you just stuck with like some of the same guys, they could pump out enough stuff for you guys needed, and then but all these new artists coming in, and so many people are so good at like just every style now that you guys have an unlimited pool to choose from, which is really cool.
Even though we have a lot of tattooer friends that have done a lot of shirts, it's still hard getting art from you guys. I mean, this is a perfect example right here. You know, like you got one that you've been working on for a year or two. We hear that story all the time. You know, it's like no matter how many friends we've had contribute art, we're constantly tugging on sleeves, like giving reminders. You know, and you know that's just the way it goes. You guys make a living off of tattooing more than painting.
Yeah.
So
that's what I was gonna say too. It's like some of the older guys are like. You know, they're tired.
Yeah.
We're tired at the end of the day.
Yeah.
I don't want to pick up a pencil when I go home. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
but the younger kids are driven like we used to be, you know, and just drawing at night, drawing for everything. You know, they live that life. And you get older, you start having family. You're like, no, I just want to go home and hang out with the kids.
Right.
You know, and that just kind of happens. It's really weird that way, you know?
Yeah. I mean, all of us were hungry when we were younger. You know, all of us are... You know, chilling out a little bit more. Well, maybe not all of us, but more than we used to. But yeah, and we get off on that. We get a kick out of using our platform to find diamonds in the rough. You know, to find this youngster who is fucking sick, but no one really knows of him just yet. You know, and if we can put him out there and get him some more business, that's fun too.
Yeah, you guys have done that really well, which is awesome. You know, like. There's always companies that come into it like a culture or whatever, and that's what you were saying about fashion too. Like I think you guys are more of a part of a culture than you are fashion. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
because you guys have kind of come in and then made products to help the industry too, not just T-shirts and stuff. You know, so it's like you guys are doing clothing, but you're also making the backpacks and all this stuff to help out artists, which is really cool. You know, I love that aspect too, and
Thanks.
That really gives back a lot too. You know, and
That's the blessing of having Ryan being a tattooer. You know, he's thinking like you
Yeah.
guys. He's thinking, how can I help these guys out? You know,
That's
like so
rad.
now, you know, a couple years ago, you know, he's designing these big backpacks with all the bells and whistles, all this cool stuff. There was one that he ended up putting a stop on it, but it was badass. It had so many cool elements, but now people don't need those big bags anymore. So now he's